After the defeat in the Border Gavaskar series in Australia, Ravi, it was 3-1, of course. There's a whole bunch of new rules which were introduced by Gigi, the coach, Gautam Gambhir, of course. So, players had to play domestic cricket. They couldn't bring managers, assistants or chefs on tour. There were baggage limits. Now, I presume when you were coach, not that long before, all of this stuff was sort of going on as well. Like, how did you see this?
Not really.
Okay.
It might have started. I don't remember anyone coming with a chef in my time.
Right.
Because that chef would have been very busy with me. If he had come, I wouldn't have minded one or two.
One chef.
At least the cuisine could have been different over a glass of red after the game. Where you didn't have to go to room service all the time. But, come here, chef. How about a nice whatever. But after a while, on tours, you want to minimize things. When there's too many people around, you tend to get distracted as well.
Yeah.
So obviously he must have seen it's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
So just put a limit to what can be done and cannot be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How is Gautam going as coach? It's a tough start with the red ball, white ball going
but
quite
that's
well.
Bound to happen. It takes time to understand your players, to know what kind of combinations you should play. The fact that they came back in England to win that last Test match, then win the Asia Cup. That'll help things settle down. But in India, like I said, every series, counts. The fact that they've beaten West Indies now, they've already got 2 Test matches under their belt overseas, makes them firm favourites again to make it to the final of the World Test Championship. Barring something out of the ordinary happen, like last time. When New Zealand beat India at home, which was like a shock to everyone. I think he'll settle down. And he's got, the good thing for him is he's got a captain now. Who's stable, who's composed, who's calm, who's quietly confident about his own ability and is a terrific player. He's the man for the next decade for India. There's no question about that. 25 years of age. You've got Rishabh Pant, who's 26 for Test matches. There's got very good backup there in Dhruv Jurel, who can keep and bat as well. So makings of a good side. I think what he'll be looking out for is a nice bench of fast bowlers. See, with Shami retiring, Bumrah management load, you need another 3 to be groomed very quickly. If India have to again start challenging overseas on a regular basis.
What about Shreyas? Shreyas is finding it hard to get into the national side. He's done such a great job with in the IPL across multiple franchises and skippering, and it feels like after the Virat and Rohit era, he was kind of in the next set of guys who would take that baton as a batter and a leader, but he's finding it hard to get into the national setup there. Would you say that's a combination with Gambhir thing, or...?
Obviously, it must be a combination because, it's a... I was surprised he was not in the side for the Asia Cup, to be honest. For him and Jaiswal to sit out, everyone has to perform there, game after game. Now he's on the tour for the one-day games. He's the vice-captain. So, he obviously would be upset because after what you've just said, his performances, he won the IPL for KKR, then entered the finals of the IPL again. And how do you judge a player? How do you pick a player for India? IPL becomes very important, especially in T20 cricket. If you have a performer like that, the selectors should be watching that. So it's a tough pill for him to swallow, really tough. I hope there's been some communication there with him. Tell him why exactly he's not there, rather than, just letting him think about it and being on his own.
Yeah, and obviously, Ricky Ponting loves him as well. Picked him for Punjab and he spoke really highly of him. I want to ask you about Shubman Gill. My close personal friend Shubbers. And I'm just interested in the generational evolution of the Indian team and Indian people, really, generally speaking, because Shubman, he's got the flair and he's got the shirtless selfies, but there's also a steeliness, there's a resolve to him. You might recall, you were obviously over there for the Test series against England in this winter just gone. At the beginning of that series, there were some questions about who was in control of that side. Shubman on the field might have made 1 or 2 mistakes, but by the end, in that last Test match at the Oval, which India, of course, won in a really close game, he was very much in control and he brought that team together. So that I feel like even in that small sample size of one 5-test series, there was an evolution of confidence there with Shubman. And from an outsider's perspective, my experience of watching the Indian side, they always had really good players. India's always had really good players. But when the axis of yourself and Virat got together, there was a skyrocketing. Something changed, I think, in the Indian the cricket team's mindset. And I wonder if you see that as well. That like there's also like this stepping stone between what you perhaps started, or maybe it was before you, and then what Shubman's doing as well. Because Shubman is like the prince who seems like he could be destined for whatever he wants to do, right? But I mean, how do you see it?
He can be the quiet assassin. You know, he might not show it, but like you use the word, the steel, that came through during that England series. See, with Virat, it was his character, it was my character. You know, we were very clear that we wanted to be aggressive, and we wanted to take the game forward, and we wanted to play to win. So if we toured South Africa or we toured Australia, not for 1 minute did we think draw. The mindset was, how are you going to beat Australia? Or how are you going to beat England or South Africa? The strip is the same for both teams. Now, how do you counter that and beat them? So that's where the planning starts. Get your fast bowlers in, get someone out of the ordinary. That's how Bumrah was thought about and brought in. So there was enough planning there to see how you can take 20 wickets when you travel. And give it as good as you get it. So there's no holding back mentally, you know, against any opposition, which I think Virat brought in. You know, that was the mindset which we wanted to play in that fashion, and it happened. Now, you saw signs of Shubman Gill in this series, you know, when he went after Zach Crawley.
Yeah.
You know, that there was a little bit of aji-baji there.
Yeah.
But it showed inside the guy's ready. You know, he's got the stomach for a fight. You know, he's not someone who will back off. He might not be that as expressive as Virat, but deep down he's got that little, you know, he can be feisty. And it came through in that last test match as well, you know, especially on that final day. His calmness, the way he controlled things for India to pull it off, get the best out of Siraj, you know, and, you know, win that test match. So I think he'll get better and better because he'll get the confidence of his players as well.
We had a privilege of speaking to Harsha Bogle in 2022. First time we'd met him, and he was explaining to us the shifting attitudes of young Indians, who, in his words, they proceed in life with a more confidence than perhaps his generation. You know, far less burdened by the shadow of history. They don't accept Anglo-sphere dominance, you know. They give back, they push back. They won't shake Ben Stokes' hand, you know, when he wants the draw and to leave the field, you know. They'll score that 100 facing
but
full
they didn't
tosses.
See it.
Yeah. They'll score hundreds facing full tosses from Harry Brook. But can you talk a bit about young Indians pushing back, you know, against and being more confident than they have been before?
Again, it starts with Virat. It started with Virat, you know, by who, I mean, I've never seen anyone looking an opponent in the eye and then walking the talk. You know, in that series in 2015 it started, you know, when he was batting and him and Mitch were having a go at each other. And it was exhilarating stuff. You know, there's no backing off. You know, he hit him on the head, first ball in Adelaide. This guy gets 200s in the same test. And then, you know, once you see someone doing that, the others follow suit. They realize that you got to hunt in a pack. I mean, that was my thing from the dressing room. Don't let one guy do it. You know, it's a team game. You know, you got to be in it together. You know, hunt in a pack. You know, let the opposition know that there's not one or two players out there, there are 11 coming after you. That's when you have some fun. You know, and you play some proper cricket, which the crowds will enjoy. You know, because in Australia, one thing you must remember is if you play hard cricket and competitive cricket, the crowd will respect it. It doesn't have to be an Indian there. Even an Australian will respect it if you play it in that fashion. You know, win or lose. And then if you win, then obviously they'll respect you. So that, and that's the reason why, you know, he's been respected. So a lot of these players who are playing today came during that time. Whether it was Shubman Gill, whether it was Rishabh Pant, whether it was Bumrah, whether it was Siraj, they've all come at that time. And now, the younger players who are coming through the ranks, they're trying to emulate what they're seeing out there in the middle. Plus the fact, you must remember, the youngsters get exposure very early in the IPL.
Yeah.
They're rubbing shoulders with the best in the world in the dressing room. International players, international coaches. You know, like you mentioned, Punter is with Kings 11. There are a lot of young players there. You know, the coaches from outside in there. Stephen Fleming is at Chennai. So they're breaking barriers. They don't have that complex anymore. You know, they play in front of big crowds. There's a lot of pressure situations in an IPL, you know, where the last over so many needed, last 3 overs so many needed. So they're exposed to it. So that's why it becomes easier to take it into the middle in international cricket now.